Hello, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ramendra Kumar, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good, sir. Thank you so much. Nice to see you here.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for being a part of this event today.
Yeah. Most welcome, sir. It's my pleasure.
Really appreciate it. And Sarah, good afternoon to you. I understand that you're going to welcome Mr. Ramendra Kumar today formally.
Yes.
Good. So I was there in the school till now. I'm driving to airport to get back to Chennai. I'll be catching up with your talk on the way. So next time we come to Hyderabad, please let us know. I'd like to plan my visit to meet up with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm actually planning in December. My friend's daughter's wedding is there. Let's see if it works out.
Please let us know in little advance so that I can plan my visit here.
Yeah, sure.
So all the best to you for your talk today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I shared this talk to all the HPS Society committee members as well. And I think they are aware about this talk, and one or two members also called me up and wish me well for this program. And
great.
They might join through the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All the best to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Right, sir, shall we begin? So
Yeah, I think you should. It's already 3 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
so good afternoon to the teachers, the students, and welcome you all to our Alumni Speak program. We have with us today Mr. Ramendra Kumar, who is an alumnus from the Begumpet campus and a batch of 1977. Thank you so much, sir, for being a part of this program, and we really look forward to amazing time, 1 hour spent with you in the next few minutes. May I now request Sarah to please introduce our guests. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, my dear friends, teachers, and esteemed alumni to another enriching session of the Alumni Speak program. It is indeed a pleasure to have such an eminent writer, storyteller, and an inspirational speaker, Mr. Ramendra Kumar, as our guest this afternoon. Mr. Kumar is an alumni from the batch of 1977 from our Begumpet campus. After completing his engineering and MBA, he moved to Rourkela, where he got a job in Rourkela Steel Plant. He later commenced writing satire and poetry and then shifted his focus to child fiction. His first book for children came out in 1997, and since then, his stories have been included in various anthologies brought out by Vikas, Pustak Mandal, Readomania, and Blue Pencil, to name a few. His works have also been published by Penguin, Duckbill Hachette, National Book Trust, and Children's Book Trust. Mr. Kumar has also, to his credit, several travelogues, satires, articles on relationships and parenting issues, which have been published both online as well as offline. A warm welcome, sir, and we're all excited and looking forward to spend the next hour interacting with you.
Thank you. So before I start, can I have more faces? Because addressing just plain blocks is slightly difficult. Anybody else there?
So we have students joining through the YouTube link.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
So fine. So Sarah will be there, and now Naomi, why don't you also come on board?
I will be there soon, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then let me start with an experience. Now, quite some time back, my wife Madhavi and I, we went to Landur, where one of the most famous English writers lives, possibly the most famous. And I don't have to tell you who is Ruskin Bond. And we had a date with him at around 6:30. We were to spend half an hour. But he's such an engaging conversationalist. It was such a pleasure talking to him. That time just flew. And when we came out of his house, it was around 8. It was pitch dark. We couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. It had rained, and the clouds had completely covered the sky. The moon had disappeared behind the clouds. The lights hadn't come on. And as we walked, to the left, there was a huge cliff, and to the right, a complete drop. The cliff and the valley were silhouetted by devda trees standing like silent sentinels. It had just stopped raining, and on the leaves, the drops of water had settled. And every time the breeze caressed the leaves, the drops would fall on our head. Like I said, it was pitch dark, and the only sound we could hear was the sound of our footsteps. Tuck, 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 tuck. My wife looked at me and smiled. And I thought for a moment, what would happen to me if she would suddenly turn into a ghost? Fortunately, Madhvi, my wife, remained as gorgeous and as beautiful as she is, and she didn't turn into a ghost, but that gave me an idea. And a few weeks later, I wrote a story about a young man who comes to Landur to do research on a ghost story which is set in the colonial times. And there, during his tryst with Landur, he meets not one but two ghosts. Now, since I have got your attention, let me talk about my journey. So, I'm going to move like a Netflix series, flash forwards and flashbacks and all that. So, I joined the school in 1969, and need I say that my most happening time, my most happiest moments were spent in the portals of this beautiful school. The signature of my success was defined by the fact that I was studying in public school. I was introduced to my relatives and friends. He's Ramendra, he studies in HPS Begumpet. That was the equity, and I'm sure even now that is the equity. I When I see that photograph of that building, even now I get goosebumps. And the memory takes me to all those years, those myriad moments of indulging in pranks and trying to please the teacher and playing football and hockey and kabaddi and God knows what else and all, and having a blast. The time just flew by. And how I wish I could invent a time machine with the help of the bright and intelligent Sarah and go back in time, at least for a few moments. So, what did the school teach me? It taught me everything which I am today. My confidence, my ability to write, my ability to speak, my creativity, my imagination, everything was tweaked and fine tuned in the school. And what it taught us together was the value of camaraderie. During COVID, many of my friends were in the US of A and they couldn't come here. And their aged parents had a lot of issues. So we all got together through WhatsApp and the other groups and all that. And our uncles and aunts, we reached out to them, sometimes with oxygen cylinders, sometimes with beds, sometimes with doctors, sometimes with caregivers. So that spirit of camaraderie is what defines the Hyderabad Public School, the entire lot, more than anything else. And this Office of Alumni Relations, I think, epitomizes that camaraderie. Alexandre Dumas wrote a novel called The Three Musketeers, whose punchline is all for one and one for all. Believe me, friends, that's what HPS stands for. All for one and one for all. So, how did my writing journey begin? When I was, I think, in class three, I think I was in class 3T. It was then 3T, and I wrote a poem. It was possibly the most horrible poem ever written by anybody in mankind. It went something like this: Topsy and Tim went for a swim. Topsy swam well and broke the spell. Tim swam badly and went home sadly. Such a sad and pathetic poem it was. I took it to my father. I thought he will tell me that what is this silly nonsense you are writing? You should study maths or science, your brain will develop. He didn't do that. Or he would say it in a very patronizing tone, you've done okay, but you would have done much better, You're from Hyderabad Public School, you should do much better. He didn't do any of these things. He simply picked me up, gave me a tight hug and said just one word. And that one word was wonderful. So today, if I'm a writer with 40 books and blah, 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 and all, it is because of that one word which my father uttered and the encouragement he gave me to go and show the poem to my class teacher, Mrs. Luke. Here again, I was apprehensive. She looked at it, smiled, tousled my hair, and said, I'll publish this, but write a longer poem. So for the next year's school magazine, I wrote a longer poem. Look at my mother, so pretty and fair. Look at her dark, beautiful hair. Look at her big, lovely eyes. Wide as the open skies. If ever I have loved anyone in my life, it is my father's good old wife. So that was published in the school magazine, and my father cut it out and framed it and kept it in his office. So that was the encouragement. And then I moved on to writing satire, like Sarah has said, and travelogues and poetry and adult fiction and all. When my daughter was 4, my son happened. So my wife gave me a lot of encouragement. She inspired me. She said, you're such a useless fellow. You can't run a washing machine. You can't boil an egg. You can't sing lullabies. You think you're a great writer, no? You say you're a great writer. Tell our daughter Ankita stories while I take care of our Aniket. Ankita was 4, Aniket was 0 months, and I was 35 years young. So when your wife throws a challenge, as Naomi would agree, the husband has to accept it. He has no choice. So I said, okay, I'm going to tell stories, but I'm not going to tell stories from the Aesop's fables or Grimm's fairy tales or Panchatantra. I'll try to think up my own stories. Till then, I had not ventured into children's fiction. So I cooked up a few stories and I started telling them. And Ankita lapped them up. Now, I'm not very sure whether she liked the content or the fact that I was jumping around and, singing and dancing. I'm a lousy singer, and I think I'm a great dancer. So possibly she loved my antics, but whatever story she loved the most went to the computer, to the laptop, from the laptop to the editor, from the editor to the publisher, and they started getting published. Now, when my son Aniket was around 4, it was a big challenge because in tastes and temperament, they were completely opposite. Now, the kind of stories my daughter liked was, once upon a time, long ago, there lived a beautiful princess. She fell in love with a tall, dark, handsome prince. And suddenly in strode a Rakshasa and kidnapped the princess. But the prince, using his ingenuity, his creativity, his imagination, rescued the princess, and they lived happily ever after. And my son, his temperament was completely, like I said, on the opposite side. So I had told him that, Aniket beta, your guru is Bruce Lee. And I put a huge poster on his almirah. So every day in the morning, he would get up and he would do this, bow his head and said, Parnam Bruce Lee. And he literally internalized the values of Bruce Lee's movies, So for him, a story would be a story if in the third reel, the hero would be catching hold of the villain's lips and tearing them apart. And by the time the story ended, the hero would have taken the kidney of the villain and stuffed it in his mouth, or between the large intestine and small intestine, he would have created a middle intestine. So for me to match once upon a time, long, long ago, and Dishum Dishum was one hell of a task. But fortunately for me, I could do it, and that's why 40 books, 30 translations, and blah, 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 blah. But the best time I had was when I told them spooky stories. I specialized in that. So when I would start the story, Aniket would be sitting around he was around 5 years old or something, around 6 feet away from me. And as the story progressed, he started moving forward. For instance, the story would go something like this. रात के ठीक 12 बजे, at the stroke of midnight, Surakshana entered the jungle. Chun, 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 chun. Suddenly there was a noise. Woo! Aniket would move a little bit forward. And as Sulochana stepped ahead, there was a huge building. And as she entered and moved the door a bit, the door moved like this. And as she looked up, there was a completely formless shape dripping blood, drop by drop by drop. By the time Sulakshana killed the monster, or the monster gobbled up Sulakshana, Aniket would be sitting on my lap, holding me tight and looking up at me with awe, with wonder, and with absolute unadulterated fear on his face. Believe me, friends, those moments are absolutely the happiest. Those long winter nights, those rain drenched afternoon, those summer scorching. We had scorching summers in Hyderabad, like you still have, and in Rourkela. We used to, get involved and absorbed in the world of wonder and fantasy and enchantment and goblins and ghosts and demons and everything else possible, which you can imagine in Harry Potter or outside Harry Potter. And those moments were easily the best. So then, after I got into children's writing, I stuck to it for many, many years, and I'm still doing it. Going back to the school again, what did the school teach me apart from camaraderie and other values which I've talked about? It allowed me, it gave me the chutzpah to think in a different way, to treat the less trodden path, to become a nonconformist, a maverick, an iconoclast. It gave me that courage, that daring, that guts. So I was an engineer in an MBA. I was doing a full-time job, but I stuck to my writing. And then I found that I have these little bit skills in storytelling. I'm not a trained storyteller, by no way. People do courses in storytelling for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I've not even done half a day course in storytelling. But I started practicing storytelling because I had that chutzpah in me, given to me by my school. Ankita, when she was in class 10, you know how these things are passed on from generation to generation. When Ankita was in class 10, she got very good marks in maths and science. So I asked her, Beta, what do you want to do? You want to become an engineer or a doctor? Because in Rourkela, you have only two professions. Either you're an engineer or a doctor. So then she told me that maths gives me headache and science makes me want to puke. So I said, what do you want to do? She said, I want to do arts. I want to do major in English literature. I said, fine, do it. Now there was a furor in my house, World War III. I've got two very pleasant ladies in my house. My wife, who's the Sherni, and my mother-in-law, who's the Babbar Sherni. Puli inka petta puli. And I'm that chota mota mouse, So normally I don't raise my voice, but I do not know where I got that strength from. I drank some badam milk, read out Hanuman Chalisa and did some push-ups and all. And I said, no, Ankita will do what she wants to do. So then my mother-in-law came up with the formula. Let her study maths and science for 2 years. Let her brain develop. After that, she can do arts. I said, for this crazy formula of yours of, developing the brain this way and that way, do you think I'm going to waste 730 days of my daughter's life, career? No, let her do arts. So she did arts. And then she went on to do a major in English. She topped the state of Orissa in +2. She joined an ad agency. After 6 months, she rang me up. This ad agency is being run by the director of Nirja, who's also directed this movie Arya, starring Sushmita Sen. So Ankita was getting stifled there. She said, for the last so many months, all I'm doing is to find out the kind of plane Nirja was traveling in, the kind of clothes she was wearing, the upholstery, and this and that. I think I'm a creative person, Papa. I can't do this kind of a thing. I said, what do you want to do? She said, I want to travel. I said, see, beta, I don't have enough money to help you travel. All I can give you is auto rickshaw fare from HPS Begumpet to Tangbend. Not more than that. She said, Papa, don't worry, I have saved some money. So she started traveling. She went to Indonesia and Vietnam and Sri Lanka. And she started her own blog. Then one of her friends said, why don't you pitch to brands? So she started pitching to brands. 100 brands she pitched. One of them agreed. And they sponsored her trip to South America. She visited 4 countries in South America. She did a survival stint in Amazon. And now she has got 150K 150,000 followers on Instagram. She's a big time travel influencer. BBC has interviewed her. She's done a workshop for Nat Geo. MTV has made a film on her. I'm not saying all this because you are going to write her biography. All I'm saying is, again, I and she, we dare to be different. We decided to follow our passion. 2 years back, I took voluntary retirement, though I had a couple of years still left in service. I said, I'm going to do full-time writing. I'm going to follow my ikigai. I'm going to follow my passion. So I followed my passion and I encouraged her to follow her passion. And this chutzpah, once again, I'm saying, I got it from our school. That is the kind of values the school gives. It helps you dream and dream big. That's why today, across the world, whether it's business or industry or films or entertainment or sports or politics or literature or culture, some of the top people, men and women in the world, are from HPS. So I would like to stress again and again the importance of schooling of this kind, which not only shapes one generation, but also the other generations or generations to come. So I would like to now move on to very something slightly more serious than what I've been talking about. That, according to me, in these fractured times, the most important value is the value of empathy. And COVID has taught us that. During COVID times, I was taking many online sessions, storytelling and creative writing workshops, and I interacted with children across the spectrum, and they were saying that they were rather upset that they couldn't go for parties, they couldn't go out and play, they couldn't go for sleepovers and all. So I would try to engage them and say that just look around you, friends. Kids of migrant labor, they are traveling for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers. They're not getting 2 square meals a day. They don't have no shelter and they have no future. So please remember that there's a lovely quotation which says, you must have definitely heard of it. I cried because I had no shoes until I saw a child with no feet. COVID definitely taught us that. I had gone to Kashmir a few years back and I talked to the common person there across the spectrum. And for children like my children, a happy day is it's a theme party birthday, or they get a new cell phone, or they go on a promised vacation. For a Kashmiri child, Sarah, what is a happy day? For a Kashmiri child, a happy day is when he leaves home to go to school, the school building is still there. It's not been bombed out of existence. For him, a happy day is when he comes back home. He doesn't find his mother abused, his sister tortured, his father incarcerated, and his brother killed. That is the kind of reality we are facing. So, should we not develop this value of empathy? And empathy not only with the fellow human beings or animals, empathy with nature. This is one lesson which we have learned from COVID. that whenever man intrudes or encroaches upon nature, that space, there is a backlash. Today, in the name of development, the kind of stuff we are doing, we are creating colossal destruction. And what is happening? We have these landslides and cloudbursts, and temperatures are rising, temperatures are falling in some cases. We have tsunamis and we have cyclones and whatnot. That is nature's way of warning us, keep off or you'll be finished. Sarah, our generation has failed. Now it's up to your generation. You should realize that you are not the owners of the environment. You are merely the custodians, and you have to follow, you have to pass it on to the gen next. Barack Obama has once said that our society suffers from an empathy deficit. I couldn't agree more. So I want to call you, me, and us to create an ecosystem of empathy and make sure that this deficit is completely dissolved. Last four lines dedicated to my school in Hindi. How's your Hindi? Your Hindi is pretty okay? Yeah. So let me try these. I usually don't write in Hindi, but I thought I should dedicate something to Hyderabad Public School in Hyderabadi, kind of Hyderabadi. Uh, if you like it, clap. If you don't like it, clap some more. Okay. So, Sala Beet Gaye Tumse. This is me and my generation talking to the school, dedicating to the school, paying a humble tribute to the school. सालों बीत गए तुमसे होकर हम सबको जुदा सालों बीत गए तुमसे होकर हम सबको जुदा तुम्हारी यादों का काफिला रहेगा अब साथ सदा काफिला इज कैरावान तुम्हारी यादों का काफिला रहेगा अब साथ सदा तुमने दी उड़ान हमें तुमने दिया सम्मान हमें तुमने दी उड़ान हमें तुमने दिया सम्मान हमें जब तक है एक भी सांस तुम पर रहेंगे हम फिदा जब तक है एक भी सांस तुम पर रहेंगे हम फिदा यू कैन क्लैप नाउ
Wonderful.
Yeah. So we can now invite questions.
Sure, sir.
So this thing I told about environment, no, I have written a story which has been showcased in an international platform. It's on YouTube. It's called the story of Little Boond, Boond, droplet of water. So you can Google it or look for it on YouTube, and I think you guys will like the story. It's a fable.
So we have the first question. What motivates you to do what you do?
What motivates me? See, basically, I would my first love is apart from my family is writing, and for me, writing is an obsession. It's my ikigai. It's my passion. I mean, I don't feel like that I'm alive when I don't write, and especially when I don't tell stories to children. I like to connect with young minds and hearts because it keeps me young. And most people say that I look younger than my number of years. Hopefully, you guys would agree. But seriously, so that it's a kind of a driving force, you know. I cannot imagine a day when I'm not connected with children, when I'm not doing my writing, when I'm not doing storytelling, and then, of course, dancing. So these are my little passions, and I want to live each day to the fullest, in the moment. No regrets about the past, no anxiety about the future, just today, right now, like a young child lives. In fact, one of my brother-in-laws. So once he told me that he smiles once a month, you know, the day he gets his salary. So one day he told me, "What is this, Ramen? You're always acting like a young, you're always acting like a clown. You're so childish. When will you ever grow up? Nobody will take you seriously." You're such a senior position. You're general manager, public relations in Rourkela Steel Plant 769011. So I said, Jijaji, you called me a child. That is the ultimate compliment you can pay me. I don't want anything more. And I want to be a child for as long as I live, because that is the ultimate status, a state of happiness, that innocence, that sense of wonder, that sense of belief in miracles having can happen, that sense of feeling that tomorrow is going to be even better than today. That is the ultimate state. So thank you for the compliment. He still laughs once a month.
So I personally have a question. What
Sure.
happens when you run out of ideas to write?
See, what you're talking about is a writer's block, right? That's what is when you run out of ideas, when a writer runs out of ideas. See, for me, I don't run out of ideas because I'm a blockhead. It's all good inside. But seriously, what I do is I write in so many genres. Like I write fairy tales, I write fables, I write fantasies, I write realistic fiction, sports fiction, which is my favorite. And I write biographies. Then I've written a biography of my Labrador from his point of view during COVID times. So I shift genres. When I feel jaded writing poetry, then I shift to children's fiction, autobiography, or to adult fiction, or to any other genre. That's why I don't suffer from this writer's block. Thank God.
So our next question is, what is that one word that sums you up? If you had to describe yourself in one word.
And now a completely, absolutely immodest person like me, if you ask me that I should be summed up in one word, so difficult. It's like my maths exam, in class 9. But I would say that zany, crazy, absolutely crazy. I mean, unpredictable. That's the problem my wife has sometimes. She doesn't know what I'm going to come up with next. Once we had gone to the same place, we had gone to this Landur and all. There was this man sitting there. He was, I think, selling some moongfali or groundnuts and all. And I walked up to him and said, "Did you recognize her?" So he said, "No." In Hindi, I said, "You do not know her? That new serial, TV serial, Sartaj Ki Dulhaniya. She's the heroine of that." And he said, "Really?" And he gave some groundnuts for free.
Our next question is, if not a writer, what else would have been your profession?
I'd have been dead. I would have been dead. I mean, my soul would have been dead. I mean, I cannot really imagine. And writing is not my profession. My profession is a public relations professional. I'm a writer by passion. That's my passion. And without the passion, how does one exist? I mean, I cannot imagine existing without a passion.
Mr. Kumar, I have a question.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to the parents? You have
To
gone
the
through a
parents.
process where you have allowed your children to carry the passion. What would be your advice to the
That's such a wonderful question. Sir, when we were growing up, we had very few professions we could look forward to, engineering, medical, CA, law, and all that. But now a child can achieve excellence in any field, absolutely any field. So please try to reach out to your children and find out what they like. Because if they love, they will never be working, they'll simply be enjoying. The goal is not to achieve success in terms of money and property and whatnot and all. The goal is to achieve happiness, to enjoy what you do, to be passionate about what you do. What I keep saying, ikigai. You jump out of the bed with the passion that today is going to be something new, you're going to create something new. So I would like the parents of today, when the opportunities are so many, to please connect with the children. Don't force your unfulfilled aspirations on your child. I've seen many parents in Rourkela. He could not become an IAS officer, so he wanted his son to become an IAS officer. She could not become a doctor, so she wanted her daughter to become a doctor. If I had asked, I had forced my child Ankita to to take up maths, she would have been a pathetic engineer. Or to take up science, she would have possibly killed many people on the drawing board. I mean, on the this thing, on the hospital table. But because she had a vision and I could sense that, and later my wife also could sense that, she is now happy, she's enjoying, and yes, she's achieving excellence.
Thank you. I think it's a very, very candid
Thank you,
feedback.
sir.
And I myself was in a similar situation and
Yeah.
allowed, uh, allowed my child to take her passion, even though I was a little disappointed that she didn't take the conventional engineering or mathematics. But she's thoroughly enjoying herself in the current role of an international strategist now.
Wonderful, sir. The key word is to enjoy, to be passionate, not have goals like, where within 10 years I'll become the chairperson of Bootleggers Incorporation and all that.
The other interesting aspect is that my son registered for electrical engineering for first year uh, out of my compulsion probably. He didn't like it and he was forthright to say that this is not my field. He quit after 1 year. Now he's into pursuing finance and economics as his own now. So I
Wonderful.
think both cases of daughter and son were sort of forced decision on me. But then I really accepted and they're thoroughly enjoying their current role now.
That's
For
true, sir. And I don't think there would be any person happier than you because of this, because of the fact that you agreed to their request or
absolutely.
their persuasion. It's
As you
so
rightly said,
fulfilling.
there's a bit of a Mahabharata war at home also.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then I think all things settled down. They are quite happy and we're also quite happy now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I really
That's
enjoyed
great.
your the way of
Thank you, sir.
talking, presenting, and full of articulation, no? And thoroughly enjoyable talk, and I love it really. We'll try to share this communication with larger audience so that they can get the benefit of your
Sure,
talk.
sure, sir. Sure, sure. Once the questions stop, then I would like to take 5 minutes at the end.
Sure, sir.
But don't stop the questions.
Sure. What is the power larger than yourself that you turn to when you are down?
It was my father. My father is my God. He's my everything. Today, whatever I am is because of him. He was a single parent to me when I was just 14. My mother left home, and he brought me up single-handedly, and he guided me through and through every bit of way. He's my God.
It's a very similar question that we have next. Is it your source of strength?
Yeah. He's my source of strength completely. He's no more. He passed away 12 years back, but I still feel his presence. And every time there is a dilemma or I feel I'm at the crossroads, somehow or the other, he reaches out to me. I do not know. Many people wouldn't believe it, but I believe that he reaches out to me and guides me the best way he can.
I agree with you, sir, when you say they become like our special angels
Yeah,
who are with you and guiding you, especially when you need them most.
true. Right now he's watching us.
I totally agree. So is my father.
True, true, true.
Apart from writing, what else do you like spending your time with?
I like to spend time with my family, and all of us are nutcases, each nuttier than the other. And our family's the youngest person is the nuttiest of all. He's a black Labrador called Aryan, but he doesn't do drugs. So I wrote this book during the pandemic when all four of us and Aryan were together. So from his point of view, how he would be feeling when his elder sister, brother, Papa and Mama together, giving him 4 times the amount of food, 20 times the amount of love and all. And through him, I talked about man's intrusion into nature. He and his girlfriend, Priyambada or Pri, they have a conversation that when we are so friendly with each other, why can't human beings be friendly with us and with each other? So and he has a pet peeve called is a cat called Bhudevi who keeps pressurizing him and all that. So every time Bhudevi tortures him, he runs to his girlfriend Pri. And there are moments like one day he's sleeping, totally dead to the world, and dreaming about amras and malai kofta and some chicken bone and all that. When he hears a crash, so he thinks like asterisks that the sky has fallen on his head, or Bhudevi is tearing his ear apart. And then he rushes out in the veranda. He finds that 4 members of his family are beating the hell out of steel vessels. And Papa is not only beating the hell, he's also jumping and singing. So he thinks that finally his family has lost it. So he rushes to Bhudevi, this Priyambada or Pri, and asks her, "What is this racket? Has my family gone? Lost it?" So he said, "No, silly. At 8 o'clock, Modi Dadu came and he made some announcements." So then he remembers that Modi Dadu usually comes at 8 o'clock and makes announcements. So that's why we are doing all this for the lifesavers, for our COVID heroes. So it's filled with these kind of moments of fun and joy. And somebody was telling me, how do you manage to write from the viewpoint of a Labrador? So I said, he's got such beautiful, soulful brown eyes, which have a vocabulary of their own. He has a lovely tail, which has a syntax of its own. And I and he, we can communicate with each other at so many levels. So for me, it's so very easy to imagine what he must be feeling like. And I really believe that. And I wish you guys could read that book, because it's only about the life of a Labrador in COVID times. And it covers the entire spectrum.
Sir, could you please tell where we can read your stories?
Yeah, you'll find it on Amazon.in, Ramendra Kumar, The Canine Chronicles. This is he. This is my handsome youngest child. Drop dead handsome.
What was your first win that made you confident that what you were doing was right? Any special?
That's a very, very interesting question. I've gone to my daughter's school so normally they call people from different walks of life, like bankers will come and say something, lawyers will say something. I was called as a PR man. I said, in a school, what am I going to talk about? Public relations. So let me tell a story. That was the first story I had thought of, and I told Ankita. She had loved it. It was called Just a Second. It was about the value of time, and there are 7 brothers from second, minute, hour, day, week, month, and year, right? So it talked about the value of time. So after around a month or so, we had gone to Ankita's teacher's house. And she said, Mr. Kumar, after 3 months, Mr. Kumar, today something very interesting happened. I said, what? He said, I was explaining the importance of hygiene. And a kid in my class 3 or class 4, he raised his hand and he said, ma'am, is it as important as the second? Is hygiene as important as the second? So this teacher asked him, what do you mean? I didn't get you. He said, no, that day uncle had come, no? And he said, second is very important. So that was a eureka moment for me. I said that if after 3 months, if a child can remember what I have told him, then this is my calling. And I should be writing children's fiction as much as possible. And that was the turning point. Apart from the fact that I was telling stories to my daughter, full time I moved to children's writing.
What is the biggest risk you've taken?
What is the biggest risk I've taken? The biggest risk I've taken is I met my wife exactly 35 years ago on October 23rd today at 11 o'clock. Fell completely, totally, insanely, absolutely in love with her. And I started flirting with her. That I think was the biggest risk I took. Luckily, I survived. That's why I'm here today. And it's such a coincidence. It's 35 years now.
Oh, yes. And it's the same day.
Yeah, at 11 o'clock in the morning. We joined together as management trainees, fell in love, and got married. It took me 7 seconds, it took us 7 months.
So, you would like to share something to the students?
Yeah, see, I would like to say, going back to the school, in school, we enjoyed all sports, because sports was compulsory. I think it's even now it is. So I played hockey and football and cricket and volleyball and handball and kabaddi. And I was pathetic in all sports except cricket. So cricket, what happened? What used to happen was that I was a good leg spinner, so my leggies were pretty potent. So the first match we had was in HPS Ramantapur, but not with HPS Ramantapur, some school from the old city. So we were supposed to be under 12, 4 feet nothing. But the guys who came, I think they fibbed about their age. They were above 12 and 5 feet something. So for me, for my batchmates or classmates, my leggies would come good length, and they would spin and all that and bamboozle them. So it was pretty effective. But for these guys, they were much below their knees. So my below the belt missiles were completely slammed, and the first over of my life became the last over of my life because I was screamed for 18 runs. But the school, in the sense that the school didn't throw me out of the team, I was still in the extras. And in the, I think in the 1973 annual magazine, you'll find me sitting very prim and proper with the school cricket team. So, but what did this sports teach me? It made me some kind of a how should I say? I became expert in writing sports fiction. I have written so many books on sports, and no other writer of children's. This is Penguin. This is about boxing. It's a connect between father and son. This is athletics. This is cricket, match fixing in cricket. This is hockey. So I realized that sports is a paradigm for life. It's a metaphor for life. It can teach you camaraderie, it can teach you comradeship, it can teach you teamwork and team spirit. It can teach you honesty, the kind of honesty which is so much needed in life. And that's why the kind of exposure I got in HPS to different sports made me kind of an expert in writing sports fiction. There is no other writer who has written so widely on so many sports with, I think, so much of authenticity. I played terribly, but I played. That rush of adrenaline, that sheer chutzpah, that sheer spirit, that, what should I say, that fun of the excitement of playing a sport, only he can understand who's played sports, won or lost. So I want to tell you guys that you play as much as you can, whether you have playgrounds or not. At least in the school, I'm sure you're getting a enough opportunity to play all sports.
We would be getting that if Corona hadn't come.
Yeah, yeah, you'll get back to sports because there's nothing like a good game. The greatest stress buster, and far more potent than drugs and what else.
Ma'am, is there anything else that we'd like to share, or should I continue with the vote of thanks?
I would only say that
Yes, go ahead.
please read as much as you can, because nowadays I think this generation is not very much into reading. But reading gives you so much. It gives you knowledge. It gives you improves your vocabulary. It gives you confidence. It helps you speak better. And in today's world, speaking with confidence is so very important. And most importantly, reading gives you, kind of catalyzes your curiosity and imagination. Suppose we are all watching together something about pirates. Everybody is seeing the same pirates, same height, same weight, same color patch, same ship, the same speed with which the ship is bobbing, the same skirmishes. But suppose I'm reading a book on pirates. Now my pirate would be different. He might be shorter, he might be taller, he might be bulkier. and his ship might be different, the skirmish might be different. So I'm able to get that creativity and that imagination catalyzed. That you will not get while watching a Netflix or Amazon Prime or any OTT platform or television or anything else. Reading gives you that. It takes you into a world which is completely unknown, right? Where you can create your own world. Second thing is, please do try to write, not because I'm a writer. Writing again gives you the power to create. You can create your own characters. You can create your own plots, your settings, write your own dialogues. See how much of power. Now, I have created 42 books. That gives me so much of fulfillment. I know my children, my grandchildren, their great grandchildren might also read the books which I have written. 3 books of mine have crossed 1,52,000 copies, which is a big number. The money, I'm not concerned. That my wife is concerned. She's the finance minister and the minister for offense and defense. I'm only minister of culture and child welfare. So 1,52,000 copies in 1 year is being taught in multiple schools across the country. See the kind of fulfillment you have when people are reading your work. So please read, please write, and be as much of a child as it's possible. Don't grow up. That's my I with folded hands, let me tell you, please don't grow up. You are perfect as you are, living in the present moment. Don't grow up. I know life is going to come cascading onto you, but please try to stem that flow. Don't grow up. Thank you.
Uh, okay, then
Yes, Sarah.
on behalf of the teachers and students at HPS, we thank you, sir, for being with us today and sharing with us some of your insights into writing. It was indeed an afternoon well spent, and HPS is indeed proud to have you as its eagle for all your achievements. Just to let our audience know that Mr. Ramendra Kumar has chaired 2 sessions at the 36th International Board on Books for Young People World Congress in August and September 2021, and he is the only Indian writer to do so. Many congratulations, sir, and wishing
Thank
you the
you.
very best for your future. In case any of you would like to connect with sir in the future or know more about his profession and what he does, you can write to him at 25ramendra@gmail.com, and it'll be posted in the YouTube comments as well, so you can come back and see it. Thank you, sir, and thank you everyone for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So
sir. Thank you so much. It was
Thank
wonderful
you, Mr.
having
Ramendra
you.
Kumar.
thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Mr. Ramendra Kumar. It's been wonderful listening to you. I really
Thank you,
enjoyed
sir.
thoroughly,
Thank you, sir.
and
Thank you so much.
I look forward to meeting you in person.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.